Hello, my dear students. I am Poonam Gupta, your commerce teacher, is going to explain you chapter 6, Principles of Management. In this video, I will explain you Taylor's principles of scientific management and Pure's principles of management. F. W. Taylor is known as father of scientific management. According to him, scientific management is the art of knowing exactly what you want your man to do and then seeing that they do it in the best and cheapest way. Here are 7 principles of scientific management given by F.W. Taylor. First of all, science, not rule of thumb. According to this principle, each and every job and the method of doing it should be based on scientific study and analysis rather than on trial and error. Because if you use this trial and error or rule of thumb, sometimes it happens that there will be wastage of time and money and efforts also. Clear? So that's why he recommended this, that science not rule of thumb. The task to be performed should be scientifically planned. The materials, equipment, and working conditions should be standardized. The amount of work to be done should be decided through objective study, not rule of thumb. Second is harmony, not discord. According to this principle, there should be healthy cooperation between employers and employees. Taylor advocated a complete mental resolution on the part of both management and workers. Management should adopt an enlightened attitude and share the gains of productivity with workers. And workers also, on their part, should work with discipline and loyalty. Or, in other words, you can say they both will work honestly and with loyalty. Next is maximum, not restricted output. The main conflict between management and workers arises mainly on division of surplus. Management thinks that they are giving a lot to the workers, and workers think that management is not giving according to the production or according to the profit. So Taylor suggested that the best way to resolve the conflict is to increase the size of surplus so that each side can have a larger share. Next is sign division of work and responsibility. So here Taylor suggested that separation of planning from operational work. So management work is, what is the work of the management? That to make the plans. So according to this principle, management should concentrate on planning the job of the workers, and workers should concentrate on their work, means on performance of work. Now next is scientific selection, training and development of workers. Scientific selection means selection should be done according to the qualification, and training means that when a newcomer joins the company, so that time he doesn't know in which way the company works. So training should be given to him, and also development of workers is also necessary. So according to this principle, workers should be selected and trained keeping in view the job requirements. Each and every worker should be encouraged to develop his full potential. Next is standardization. It means the tools, equipments, work methods, and working conditions must be standardized as so as to improve efficiency and quality. So if you want more production, more profit, so your all things should be standardized. Now, next is mental revolution. So, according to this principle, Taylor suggested a basic change in attitude on the part of both employers and employees. So, employees should consider employers as partners in industry, means that employers, they should think that employees are not only the employees, they are the family members of the company. And also, similarly, employees must treat employers as their father figure and well wisher, or in other words, you can say that employees should respect their employers. So, these all are the principles of scientific management given by F.W. Taylor. Now, we come to the next. Here are the Henry Fayol's 14 principles of management. So, what are these? First is division of work. Second is authority and responsibility. Third is discipline. Fourth is unity of command. Next is unity of direction. Then subordination of individual interest to general interest. Then remuneration. Then centralization. Then scalar chain. Then 10th is order. 11th is equity. 12th is stability of tenure. 13 is initiative. And 14th is esprit de corps. So now I will explain you all these 14 principles one by one. First of all is division of work. So according to this principle, that division of work means division of the total task into compact jobs. Compact jobs means small jobs, and allocating these compact jobs to different persons so that an employee can concentrate on only one type of work. It helps to improve efficiency by avoiding wastage of time and effort caused by change from one type of another work to another. See, it is very obvious that when we have experience of doing the same work, or you can say that we are doing the same work again and again, so what will happen? So experience will come, and we can do the work with more perfection. So that's why it is necessary that an employee should be given one work to do, and after this it will help to improve efficiency. Clear? So this is called division of work. So according to the qualification of the employee, the work should be assigned, and in that work he will get experience by doing the same work again and again. And in other words, you can say it will, if when an individual does the same job repeatedly, he acquires speed and also accuracy in performance. Now, next is authority and responsibility. See, what does it mean, authority? Authority means that power, and responsibility means duty. So always remember that authority and responsibility, they go hand in hand. If you are giving someone responsibility, so according to that responsibility, authority also should be given to him. If only you are given him responsibility and there is no authority, so what will happen? That time it will increase frustration between the employees. So, or in other word, you can say right means there it should be authority and responsibility both together given to the employees. More authority, More responsibility, less authority. So if suppose I give you one example, if you expect from your sales manager that this year 30% sales should be increased, so only you are giving the responsibility to increase the sales by 30%. But that time you should give him some more authorities, that whatever he wants to do, he can take more finance for improving the sale or other things which he wants. He can take, he has authority to take. So that time only he will do efforts to increase the sales. So it means that authority and responsibility, they go hand in hand. Third is discipline. According to this, discipline, that discipline implies obedience, respect of authority, and observance of the established rules and regulation. What does it mean? Discipline means obedience. Obedience means that there should be respect of the seniors. This is the duty of the employees, to respect to the senior, to give respect. Whatever they are expecting, so they should do. And what does it mean? Respect of the authority. So employees should give respect to the authority. Sometimes it happens that your seniors are by age, they are younger to you, but it doesn't mean that time you will not give them respect. By that you are thinking that they are very young. So it does, if they are very young, it doesn't mean that you will not give them respect. They are your authority. Maybe they are, they have more knowledge, so that time proper respect should be given to them. And observance of the established rules and regulation means whatever the rules and regulation are in the organization, this is the duty of the employees to respect all the rules and regulation. I give you one example. If suppose their smartphones are not allowed at the time of work. If there is a time of lunch, okay, you can use your smartphone. But during your working time, if it is not allowed, so that time it should not be used. This is the rule of the organization. So you have to respect, you have to follow that rule. Next is, after this, unity of command. Unity of command means that there is one person and one boss. It means what? That according to this principle, an employee should receive order from one superior only and be responsible to him. No person can serve several masters at the same time. So what will happen that time? That time lots of confusion will be created. So that's why if a subordinate has more than one boss, dual command will undermine authority, weaken discipline, divide loyalty, and create confusion, etc. Clear? So it is according to this principle, always there is one boss for one person. Next is unity of direction. What does it mean? Unity of direction. It means that there should be one head and one plan for a group of activities having the same object. All departments, there are so many departments in the organization, so they all should have the same goal. If they will do efforts for achieving the same goal, only that time organization can get success to in that goal. So according to this, without unity of direction, unity of action and coordination of efforts are not possible. After this, subordination of individual interest to general interest. What does it mean? See, an organization is bigger than an individual because in an organization, so many individuals are there. So that's why it is bigger than an individual. So the interest or goals of the organization must prevail upon the personal interest of individuals. So when we are doing the work in an organization, so that time our self interest doesn't matter. We are doing the efforts for attaining the in- goal of the organization. So according to this principle, constant supervision is necessary to prevent promotion of personal interest at the cost of organization, and also employees must be honest, sincere and loyal. Only that time this principle will help. After this, seventh principle, remuneration. Remuneration means that the remuneration payable to workers must be fair, reasonable, and satisfactory both to the employees and the employers. Or you can say, according to their effort, according to their work, they should be paid. If they deserve more, or suppose if they are doing overtime, so that time some extra amount should be given to them. Or those who are lazy, those who are not doing proper work, so that time some cutting of salary should be there, or some other kind of penalty should be there. So in other words, it must reward effort so as to motivate higher productivity. The amount of remuneration and the method of wage payment should both be fair and rewarding. Next is centralization. What does it mean, centralization? Everything that increases the importance of subordinates' role is decentralization, and everything that reduces it is centralization. There should be proper balance between centralization and decentralization. Or you can say that if there is size of business is small, so that time power can be managed by few, or you can say all decision can be taken by few. But if there is a large business, so that time the few people cannot manage each and everything, so that time decentralization will work. So according to the size of the business, it can be chosen. Now next is scalar chain. So you can see there is one figure. I explain you scalar chain. What does it mean? See, suppose A is the authority for this chain A, B, C, D, E, F. So A will give order to B will give order to C, then C to D, then D to E in this way. Clear? Or second side also A to L, L to M, then M to N and N to O. Okay. This is the order. Or E will report to D, D will report to C, C will report to B, and B will report to A. And second side also O to N to M, and M to L, and L to A in this way. But sometimes in emergency, it happens that there is not sufficient time to think. So that time, if E wants some work and only O can solve it. So that time, if E wants to reach to O according to the hierarchy, so first E will say to D, D to C, C to B, B to A, then A to L. So it will take too much time. And that time I have said the time is not enough that time. So E in emergency only E can direct ask to O. So this is called gang plan. When E is direct, there is a conversation between E and O directly. Clear? If so, this is called gang plan. Sometimes in emergency, we can use this. So, this is called scalar chain. So, according to this, it refers to the chain of superiors ranking from the ultimate authority top to the lowest rank. Normally, the prescribed chain of command should be followed and communications should flow through the established chain of command. But the idea, this is to facilitate quick communication between two links in the chain. A gangplank may be created, but in emergency, in not always. In emergencies, you can see. So the idea of gangplank indicates that principles of management are general and flexible guidelines rather than hard and fast laws. Here, this is scalar chain. Now, next is order. Order, it doesn't mean that when we give order to do something. No, this is not that order. Clear? So here order doesn't mean command. Here order means what? That there must be material and social order in an enterprise. What does it mean, material order? That material order means a proper place for everything and everything in its right place. It is not enough that we have given one place that if this thing should be kept here. But we are not keeping the things according to that place, so that time it is useless. So a proper place for everything and everything in its right place. Similarly, social order means social order is used for humans. Social order means a place for everyone and everyone in his appointed place. The right man in the right job is very important for the successful functioning of an organization. Clear? So after this, next is equity. Equity means that management should treat the employees with justice and kindness. There should be equity of treatment in dealing with subordinates and no discrimination, or there will not be any kind of nepotism and favoritism. Suppose if one person in companies, he deserves the promotion, but one more person is there, person B, who is the relative of the manager. So, and manager is doing favor for that person B, but it is not good. There should not be such kind of favoritism or nepotism. Who deserves, so that person should be given chance to be promoted. So this is called equity. Next is stability of tenure. Stability means stability of job. It means what? It takes time to learn and get used of a job. If suppose one person, he joins new company, so some time he will take to get set up there, to get set there. So it means that it takes time to learn and get used to a job. Therefore, a reasonable security of service should be provided to all employees. Stability of tenure, it helps to develop loyalty and attachment on the part of employees. If suppose this week hire, next week fire, no, this is not good. Some time should be given to the employees to prove themselves. Clear? So, unnecessary labor turnover or change of personnel increases cost of selection and training and spoils the image of the firm. Next is initiative. What does it mean, initiative? Initiative means when management asks some ideas from their subordinates. So this is called initiative principle. So here employees at all the levels should be encouraged to think out and execute the assigned task in a better way. Initiative is a source of strength for an organization. Therefore, subordinates should be inspired to suggest improvement in the formulation and implementation of plans. Sometimes they can also give better uh, uh, some better plans to the management. And next is split the corps. Esprit de corps means team spirit and cooperation. There must be team spirit and cooperation among the members of an organization. Unity of strength, and the strength of an enterprise lies in the cooperation and harmony in individual efforts. So there means management should follow this rule, that unity of strength in place of divide and rule, right? So here unit, if management follows this unity of strength, so that time group efforts are more than the aggregate of individual contribution on account of esprit de corps. So strong motivation, recognition of contributions made by employees, mutual cooperation, constructive approach by managers, and effective coordination had to achieve esprit de corps in an organization. So this is all about the 14 principles of fuel. Now the next is distinction between Taylor and fuel. Here are 5 points of distinction between Taylor and Pure principles. First is perspective. Perspective, or you can say their thinking. So here, according to Taylor, this is operative or shop floor level, and Fuel he has given for top level of management. Second is personality. Taylor is a scientist and Fuel is a practitioner. Third, focus. Taylor has focused for increasing productivity of workers, and he has focused on improving overall efficiency of administration. Fourth is techniques. Taylor has given scientific observation and measurement techniques, and he has given general principles of management. And nature of work done, he has given scientific management principles, and he has given general theory of administration. So this is all about Taylor's and Pure's principles of management. So now thank you for watching this video.